The classroom was packed with students, their whispers thick with judgment, as I stood frozen at the front. Miss Carter smirked, her voice sharp like broken glass as she said, "You'll never amount to anything, not with this pathetic work." Laughter erupted, echoing against the cracked walls, each laugh digging into me like a blade. My heart raced as the shame burned hotter than fire, my dreams crumbling in an instant. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but my throat locked. The classmates' eyes cut into me, some pitying, most cruel. I clenched my fists, nails carving crescents into my skin, yet I did not cry. Miss Carter turned away, satisfied with her cruelty, the chalk in her hand scratching across the board like my future being erased. Every word she spoke carved scars into my soul, and I swore silently, "This moment will not be forgotten. She will regret this." The bell rang, but its freedom felt hollow, the sound of my humiliation carrying into eternity. I stumbled into the hallway, the sound of laughter still chasing me like a curse. My chest tightened, and I pressed against the cold lockers, hoping to disappear. Tyler caught up, his voice low, "You don't deserve this, man." I shook my head, swallowing the storm inside. Every face that passed carried judgment, pity, or amusement, none of which I could stand. The air smelled of chalk and old books, but to me, it stank of shame. I wanted to vanish, yet a darker thought burned stronger, to make her pay. My heart pulsed with anger as Tyler's hand on my shoulder felt both comforting and heavy. I whispered, "She killed everything I worked for." Tyler looked at me, worried but silent, knowing words were useless. In that crowded hallway my isolation became a weapon. Every ounce of pain carved a path toward revenge, and though I trembled, my resolve hardened with every step away from the classroom. The night was restless. I lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling, hearing Miss Carter's words replay in endless loops. "Pathetic," she had said, and it clawed deeper each time. My mind churned, twisting pain into bitter fire. The posters on my wall of colleges and dreams felt like cruel reminders of what she ripped from me. I clenched my blanket, teeth grinding as the city lights flickered through the blinds. Every failure she predicted echoed, but beneath the torment, a new voice whispered. It said, "Fight back." My reflection in the cracked mirror by the desk showed a boy unraveling, but his eyes glowed with rage. Sleep never came, only plans forming, chaotic at first, then sharp like glass. I thought of Tyler's pity, of the laughter of classmates, of the smug cruelty in her smirk. All of it combined into one promise I couldn't erase. I would never forgive her. Morning came, but it felt like a punishment. The mirror reflected my tired eyes, shadows carved deep under them. My mother's voice drifted from the kitchen, warm and unaware of the storm inside me. I splashed water on my face, cold enough to sting, but it didn't wash away the shame. As I stepped out, Tyler waited by the bus stop, his eyes scanning me with unspoken questions. He asked gently, "You holding up?" I forced a nod, lying with every muscle in my body. The world moved on as if my life hadn't just been destroyed. But inside, time stopped. My dreams were gone, but in their ashes, something darker stirred. Miss Carter thought she had ended me, but all she did was awaken something ruthless. I muttered under my breath, "This isn't over." And the words tasted like iron, sharp and final. School felt like a battlefield. Every glance from classmates carried the memory of yesterday's laughter. I walked down the hall, head high but heart bruised. Miss Carter passed by, her perfume sweet but suffocating, her smirk as sharp as ever. She said calmly, "Try not to embarrass yourself today." My jaw locked, but I forced silence, because anger was more useful than words. Tyler whispered, "Ignore her," but ignoring wasn't an option anymore. Each insult, each glance, each reminder of what she'd taken built my resolve. The corridors echoed with footsteps, lockers slamming like gunfire, and I felt like a soldier stepping into war. My dreams were ashes, but from them, a darker purpose rose. I wasn't broken. I was sharpening. And every step I took was toward the day she would feel what I felt. The library was quiet, its dusty shelves stacked with forgotten stories, but my mind was louder than ever. I sat in the corner, notebook open, scribbling words that burned with anger. Tyler sat across from me, his voice low. "You're obsessed, Alex." I snapped the book shut, glaring. "She took everything, Tyler. She doesn't get to win." He leaned back, concern etched across his face, yet he said nothing. The silence between us was heavier than the air itself. Each scratch of my pen felt like carving out a new plan. A roadmap to revenge. I didn't know how, but I knew it had to hurt as much as she hurt me. The whispers of classmates still echoed in my head, and Miss Carter's cruel smirk replayed like a haunting melody. Tyler finally muttered, "Just don't lose yourself." His warning clung to me, but I was already too far gone to turn back. The cafeteria buzzed with laughter and chatter, but I felt detached, an outsider in my own world. Miss Carter walked in, her heels striking the floor like hammers, her eyes scanning with quiet superiority. My stomach knotted as her gaze brushed past me without care. Tyler whispered, "She doesn't even think about you anymore." I clenched my jaw, whispering back, "That's what makes it worse." Around me, students laughed over trivial things, their lives untouched by her venom, but mine was shattered. The clinking trays and casual voices only deepened my isolation. I stabbed at the food on my tray, each bite tasting like bitterness. The more she ignored me, the more I burned to make her acknowledge me, not as weak, but as someone she should fear. Tyler sighed, but even he could feel the storm rising, and nothing he said could pull me out. I found myself wandering after school, the sun bleeding into the horizon as shadows stretched long. I walked past the sports field, where laughter and victory chants filled the air, but all I heard was my own heartbeat. Sitting on the bleachers, I stared at the fading sky and muttered, "She destroyed me in front of everyone." The words tasted like ash. Tyler joined me, dropping his backpack with a sigh. "Maybe you should let it go," he suggested softly. I shook my head slowly. "I can't. If I let it go, then she wins." The field lights flickered on, bathing everything in harsh white, yet the world felt darker to me. My fists clenched, determination coursing through me, every nerve alive with the promise that I wouldn't stop until she understood the pain she caused. Tyler looked at me, helpless, knowing he couldn't change my mind. In my room that night, papers scattered across the floor, each one filled with scribbled ideas, fragments of schemes that made little sense yet pulsed with fury. I stared at them, my reflection in the cracked mirror glaring back at me, unrecognizable. "She thinks she broke me," I muttered to myself, "but she just made me dangerous." My pulse thundered as I crossed out words, drew lines, and scrawled angry notes. Tyler called me on the phone, his voice weary. "You're scaring me, Alex." I stared at the notes, the chaos of my thoughts, and answered flatly, "Good." He sighed but didn't hang up, the silence between us saying more than words. The night deepened, but I didn't stop, consumed by the fire that Ms. Carter had sparked. Every breath I took was one closer to the moment I'd reclaim my power. The next morning felt different. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I didn't see weakness. I saw someone ready to fight back. My mother's cheerful voice floated from the kitchen, a cruel reminder of how normal the world was outside my storm. At school, Tyler walked beside me, silent, his eyes heavy with questions he didn't dare ask. I said nothing, only stared ahead, every step carrying a new weight. Miss Carter passed by in the hallway, her perfume suffocating, her smirk a spark to the flames inside me. I whispered under my breath, "It starts now." Tyler looked at me sharply, but I didn't meet his gaze. My path was set, and there was no turning back. For the first time since my humiliation, I didn't feel powerless. I felt dangerous, and that feeling was intoxicating. Rain poured against the windows, each drop like a drumbeat inside my skull as I sat through another class. Miss Carter's voice cut sharp, but I no longer felt small. I stared at her, eyes cold, imagining the day she would pay. Tyler nudged me, whispering, "You're scaring me with that look." I didn't answer, just scribbled lines in my notebook, not of lessons but of plans. Every cruel word she had spoken echoed like fuel, and I knew I couldn't stop now. The storm outside matched the storm inside me. Miss Carter glanced my way, smirking as though she still had power. But something inside shifted, and I almost smiled because she didn't see the trap being built. Tyler sighed, knowing he had already lost me to this path. My rage was no longer hidden. It was becoming something alive, something dangerous, and it fed me more than any lesson ever could. The storm cleared, but inside I carried it with me. After class, I stayed behind, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. Ms. Carter's words still clawed at me, and I pressed my hand against the lockers, whispering, "Not much longer." Suddenly, a deeper voice broke the silence. Mr. Gray, the janitor, appeared from the shadows, his eyes tired but sharp. He said quietly, "Revenge eats the one who serves it." I froze, startled. He had been watching, maybe too closely. I muttered, "You don't know what she's done." He gave a weary nod, saying, "More than you realize, but tread carefully, boy." His warning lingered, heavier than the silence that followed. I walked away, shaken yet more determined, because if even strangers could see the fire inside me, then it was real, unstoppable, and already too strong to extinguish. That evening, Tyler dragged me to the diner downtown, hoping distraction would calm me. The neon lights flickered, casting pink and blue hues across the cracked leather booths. He said, "You can't let her own your mind forever." I stirred my soda, the fizz loud in the silence, and replied, "She doesn't own it anymore. I do." He frowned, knowing I wasn't joking. Around us, laughter and music filled the air, but it all felt distant. Tyler begged, "Don't go too far, Alex." I leaned closer, whispering, "There's no such thing as too far." His shoulders slumped, defeated, realizing he was losing me piece by piece. The sweetness of the soda tasted like poison, because nothing ordinary felt real anymore. All that mattered was the reckoning to come. Every distraction only sharpened my focus, and Tyler's fear only confirmed how far I'd already fallen. The next day, Miss Carter cornered me after class, her perfume cloying, her smile sharp as glass. "Still dreaming big, Alex?" she asked with mocking sweetness. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice steady. "Bigger than you could ever imagine." Her eyes narrowed, but she laughed dismissively. That laugh burned into me, each note a reminder of my humiliation. I walked past her without another word, the heat of her gaze pressing into my back. My heart pounded, my fists trembling, but not with fear, this time with power. I could see the cracks forming in her calm exterior, and it gave me strength. For the first time, I wasn't the broken student anymore. I was something else entirely, something she couldn't yet see, but would soon learn to fear. Tyler waited by the door, worry etched deep, but I didn't slow down. My war had begun. That night, I sat on the roof of my house, the city lights flickering like stars too far away to matter. The cold air bit my skin, but it cleared my thoughts. Tyler called from below, shouting, "Come down before you freeze." I ignored him, staring at the horizon. I whispered to the night, "She built her life on crushing others. I'll be the one to end it." The wind carried my words, and for a moment, I felt free. But freedom didn't matter anymore. Vengeance did. My heart no longer carried the weight of humiliation. It carried the blade of resolve. Tyler's voice broke again, filled with desperation, but I only smiled faintly, because he couldn't understand. The boy who once dreamed was gone. All that remained was a shadow sharpened by betrayal, and that shadow was ready to strike. The tension in school felt heavier than the walls themselves. Whispers followed me, the laughter now quieter but sharper, like knives dipped in poison. Miss Carter strolled into the classroom, her smirk a weapon sharpened by routine. She began tearing into another student, but I didn't feel relief. It only fueled the fire inside me. I watched the victims slump, their eyes wet, and it struck me that I wasn't the only one she destroyed. Rage surged, Not just for me but for everyone she crushed. Tyler leaned in, whispering, "Don't do anything stupid." My lips curled into something between a smile and a sneer as I muttered, "I'm done being quiet." The air was electric, each word she spoke becoming tinder. My notebook was no longer filled with dreams, it was filled with plans. The storm was shifting, and I wasn't a victim anymore. I was becoming something dangerous, something she wouldn't see coming. After class I found the student Ms. Carter had humiliated. She wiped tears quickly, forcing a smile when she saw me. "She's awful, isn't she?" she whispered. I nodded, my voice low. "She won't be forever." She looked startled, unsure if I was joking. I realized in that moment that Ms. Carter's cruelty wasn't just mine to carry, it spread like poison, and there were countless others who bore her scars. I clenched my fist, promising silently that this wasn't about me anymore. Tyler caught up, shaking his head. "You can't save everyone." I shot him a look, sharp as broken glass, and replied, "But I can stop her." His silence told me he knew I meant it. The weight of every victim pressed on me, not crushing but pushing me forward. My anger was no longer personal. It was righteous, and it demanded an answer. That evening, I met Tyler at the park, leaves crunching beneath our shoes as the night closed in. He begged me again to let it go, his voice strained. "You're not yourself anymore." I laughed, a hollow sound that didn't feel like mine. "I'm more myself than I've ever been," I replied. The streetlights flickered, their glow stretching shadows across the cracked pavement. Tyler stepped in front of me, blocking my path. His eyes pleaded for me to turn back, but my stare was unflinching, my silence louder than any promise. The betrayal I endured had reshaped me, and Tyler's doubt only sharpened my edge. Finally he whispered, "If you keep going, I can't follow you." I brushed past him, not looking back. The world was shifting, and I knew one truth. I had to finish what she started, no matter the cost. Days later, I slipped into the staff room when it was empty, the faint smell of coffee and chalk dust lingering in the air. My hands trembled as I opened Miss Carter's desk drawer, rifling through neatly stacked folders. My heart raced with every sound in the hall, but I couldn't stop. Inside, I found files filled with student records, red-inked notes dripping with disdain. She had mocked us all, documented our failures like trophies. Fury pulsed in my veins as I stuffed papers into my bag, proof of her cruelty. Footsteps echoed outside and I froze, breath trapped in my chest. I barely managed to slip out, the stolen evidence burning against my side like fire. For the first time I had something tangible, something real. Tyler's words haunted me, but I silenced them with a single thought. This was only the beginning. That night, I spread the stolen papers across my bedroom floor, the words glowing under the desk lamp like poison revealed. Each insult, each cruel remark was written proof of the monster she was. My heart pounded with the rhythm of destiny, every page confirming that this wasn't madness. It was justice. Tyler's voice echoed in my memory, warning me to stop, but I shoved it aside. I wasn't stopping. My reflection in the cracked mirror stared back, unrecognizable, lips curling into a faint smile. "She thinks she's untouchable," I whispered, "but I'll show her how wrong she is." For the first time since that day, the shame was gone, replaced by something sharper, something stronger. I wasn't broken anymore. I was becoming the weapon she created, and soon she would feel its edge. The next day, I walked the halls with a new fire in my veins. The papers in my bag felt like weapons, and every step carried the weight of proof. Tyler caught up, whispering urgently, "What did you do?" I only muttered, "What she deserves." I slipped one of the papers into a locker, then another into a desk, the evidence scattering like seeds of rebellion. Students began to whisper, their eyes shifting, curiosity building. The silence around Miss Carter was cracking. My chest swelled with anticipation, but underneath it all, a darker satisfaction grew. For once, she wasn't in control. Tyler grabbed my arm, voice sharp, "This isn't you." I shook him off, meeting his gaze with steel. "This is exactly who I am now." His silence cut deeper than words, but I didn't falter. The game had changed, and I was no longer playing by her rules. I was making my own. By afternoon, the whispers turned to murmurs. Students passed the papers around, their eyes widening as they read Miss Carter's cruel words. The poison she had poured into our lives was laid bare for all to see. Faces hardened, anger simmered, and the laughter that once followed me was gone. Miss Carter entered the room, her smile faltering as silence replaced chatter. Her eyes darted, sensing something was wrong. My pulse raced, satisfaction blooming in my chest. Tyler leaned close, voice urgent, "You've started a war." I whispered back, "Good." Miss Carter stood at the front, her smirk trembling, her confidence cracking for the first time. The power she held was slipping, and I could feel the shift in the air. For once, it wasn't me under her spotlight. For once the monster was being seen for what she really was. That evening, I received a message slipped under my door. My stomach dropped as I unfolded it. The words were scrawled in red ink, "You don't know the whole truth." My heart pounded, the thrill of victory colliding with fear. Tyler called, but I ignored him, staring at the note like it was alive. Someone else knew. Someone else had seen beyond what I uncovered. I muttered, "Who are you?" The shadows in my room stretched, heavy with secrets. For the first time, doubt clawed at my resolve. Had I underestimated her? Or was there another hand at play? The lines between victim and avenger blurred, and for a moment, I felt lost again. But anger quickly drowned the fear, and I whispered, "Then I'll dig deeper." The war had just grown bigger than I imagined, and I wasn't sure if I could survive what came next. The following day, I confronted Miss Carter after class, shoving the note onto her desk. She glanced at it briefly, then smiled. A smile that chilled me to my bones. "Finally starting to see the bigger picture," she whispered. My breath caught, rage colliding with confusion. "What are you talking about?" She leaned closer, her perfume suffocating, her eyes like daggers. "You think you're the first? You think I'm the real enemy?" Her words twisted through me, sharp and cruel. Tyler entered, eyes wide at the sight, but I didn't break my stare. For the first time, I felt my control slipping, the ground beneath me shifting. If she wasn't the true villain, then who was? My voice cracked, but steady, I said. "Then tell me." She only smirked, refusing, and walked away, leaving me burning with more questions than answers. The game had shifted again. That night, I couldn't sit still. My room felt too small, my thoughts too loud. I paced, every step echoing with Miss Carter's words. "You think I'm the real enemy?" My fists shook, heart racing like a war drum. Tyler called again, his voice breaking through the phone. "Alex, you need to stop before this destroys you." I nearly threw the phone, screaming back, it already destroyed me. My reflection in the cracked mirror looked like a stranger, eyes hollow, mouth twisted with fury. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass, whispering, "If she's not the real monster, I'll find out who is." My body trembled, but not from fear. From hunger for truth, for vengeance, for the end of the lies. The line between justice and obsession was gone. I didn't care what I had to do or who I had to burn to uncover the truth. The school felt like a battlefield when I entered. Whispers curled through the halls, every student's eyes darting toward me as if they sensed the storm I carried. Miss Carter stood at the end of the hallway, clipboard in hand, her smirk intact but weaker, thinner than before. Tyler rushed up, breathless. "This is getting out of hand." My heart thudded, but my voice was steady. "No, Tyler, this is where it ends." His face paled as he realized I meant it. Each step I took toward her felt heavier, echoing louder than footsteps should. My body trembled, not from fear, but anticipation, a release I had been craving since that first day. Her eyes narrowed, lips parting with another insult, but I cut her off. "Not today." The words tasted like iron. The halls fell silent. This was no longer a war of whispers. It was the beginning of her reckoning. That afternoon, I followed Ms. Carter into the staff room, my pulse hammering against my ribs. She turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "What do you want now?" I dropped the folder of stolen papers onto the desk with a thud, their contents spilling like spilled blood. Her face twitched, her mask cracking as she hissed, "You don't know what you're doing." I leaned closer, my voice ablaze. "I know exactly what I'm doing." Tyler barged in, his voice shaking. "Alex, stop!" But I didn't move. Miss Carter's eyes burned with anger, yet I saw something deeper, fear. For the first time she was cornered. My hands trembled with the weight of it all. This was it, the collision of everything she built and everything she destroyed. I had dragged her to the edge, and I wasn't sure if either of us would come back. The confrontation spilled into the hallway, the papers scattered like broken glass. Students gathered, eyes wide, whispers rising like wildfire. Miss Carter tried to collect herself, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "He's lying," she barked, but no one moved. I raised one of her notes, red ink, cruel and damning. "Is this a lie?" I shouted. Silence fell heavy. Tyler tugged my sleeve, pleading, "You're crossing the line." But I couldn't stop, not when justice was within reach. Miss Carter lunged for the papers, but I held them high. For the first time, the power she held crumbled before everyone. Students weren't laughing anymore. They were watching her fall apart. My chest heaved, rage and triumph mixing into something toxic, something unstoppable. I had her cornered, and nothing would make me let go. The principal stormed in, voice booming, demanding order. Miss Carter snapped, pointing at me, "He's trying to ruin me." The crowd erupted, voices colliding in chaos. I stepped forward, shoving the papers into the principal's hands. His brows furrowed as he scanned them, the silence thickening. Miss Carter's smirk faltered, her body stiff as her world cracked apart. Tyler whispered, "Alex." But I couldn't stop, my voice raw. She humiliated us, all of us, and she thought no one would stand against her. The principal's face darkened, his silence louder than words. Miss Carter's hand trembled, her control gone. My chest rose and fell like I had run a marathon, but I wasn't finished. This was the moment I had bled for, the moment her kingdom of cruelty burned. For the first time, she wasn't untouchable. She was vulnerable. The crowd thinned as the principal led Miss Carter away, her steps rigid, her face pale. She turned once, eyes locking onto mine with venom and fear entwined. For a moment I thought victory would feel sweet, but all I felt was hollow. Tyler placed a hand on my shoulder, whispering, "It's over." But I shook my head slowly. "No, it's not." Because deep inside her cryptic words haunted me. I'm not the real enemy. The truth still dangled out of reach like a blade suspended over my head. The students' eyes followed me with a mixture of awe and fear, and for the first time I realized I had become something else. Not just a victim, not just a fighter, but a weapon. The war wasn't finished. This was only the beginning of something darker, and I wasn't sure I could stop. The following morning, the halls felt alien, quiet but charged. Whispers followed me not with mockery but with something heavier, fear, respect, or both. Tyler walked beside me, silent, his eyes avoiding mine. He no longer looked at me like his friend, but like something he didn't recognize. I didn't blame him. I didn't recognize myself either. The shame was gone, but so was the boy I used to be. Miss Carter's absence lingered like smoke after a fire, proof that she had been burned. Yet her final words gnawed at me. If she wasn't the enemy, then who was? My chest tightened with unease, the victory already sour. For once I wasn't being laughed at, but the silence around me felt heavier than ridicule ever had. I had won the battle, but I wasn't sure if I had lost something greater. At lunch, I sat at the edge of the cafeteria, Tyler across from me, his silence louder than the noise around us. Students avoided our table, their glances quick, their whispers sharp. I chewed slowly, every bite tasteless. Finally, Tyler broke the silence, his voice low. "You got what you wanted. Why does it feel worse?" I didn't answer right away, staring at the food on my tray like it held answers. Because she wasn't lying, I said finally. His brow furrowed, confusion heavy in his eyes. I pushed the tray aside, appetite gone. The war had given me power, but it had stolen something else I couldn't name. The cafeteria noise blurred into static, distant and unreal. For the first time, I wondered if revenge had saved me, or ended me. That night, I returned to the rooftop, the city stretched below, lights shimmering like false promises. The cold air stung, but I welcomed it. My phone buzzed with Tyler's messages, unread and unanswered. I whispered into the night. She said she wasn't the real enemy, then who is? The wind swallowed my words, leaving only silence. I stared at the horizon, my reflection in the dark window nearby showing a boy gone, a shadow left in his place. For the first time I realized revenge hadn't healed me. It had hollowed me out. Yet even in the emptiness, a fire still burned. I wasn't done. I couldn't be. The truth was out there, and I would chase it until there was nothing left of me to chase it with. I closed my eyes, letting the cold seep deeper, embracing the darkness like an old friend. The next day, the principal called me into his office, the air thick with coffee and silence. He slid the folder of Miss Carter's papers back toward me, his voice grave. You've exposed her, Alex, but you've also exposed yourself. My throat tightened, but I forced my voice steady. She deserved it. His eyes narrowed, heavy with something unsaid. Be careful what paths you walk. Some truths will eat you alive. The warning sank deep, colder than any insult Miss Carter had ever thrown. I left the office feeling the weight of victory twist into dread. Tyler waited outside, asking nothing, his silence speaking volumes. For the first time, I realized that justice wasn't clean. It was sharp, messy, and it cut both ways. And I was bleeding more than I admitted. That night, I stood before the cracked mirror one last time. The boy who once dreamed was gone, replaced by someone forged in cruelty, sharpened by humiliation. Tyler's voice echoed in my memory, warnings I had ignored, but now it was too late. I whispered to my reflection, she ruined me, but she also made me. My reflection's smirk looked almost alien, a stranger staring back. I turned off the light, plunging the room into darkness, but my eyes stayed open, burning with restless fire. Outside, the wind howled like a warning, but I welcomed it. The war with Miss Carter was over, but her final words haunted me still. I'm not the real enemy. The ending wasn't closure, it was the beginning of something darker. And as the silence stretched, one truth settled heavy in my chest. The story wasn't finished. It had only just begun.